It's time for Intelligent Machines. We've got a great one for you. Jeff does have the week off, but Paris Martineau's back from Europe. And filling in for Jeff, our special guest, Cory Doctorow, sci-fi author, activist, EFF consultant, and a good old friend. We have a lot to talk about. AI art. Is it really art, or is it just eerie? We'll talk about Meta. They've been gaming the AI benchmarks. What a surprise. And why you should never use AI to represent you in court. All that and more coming up next on Intelligent Machines.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Intelligent Machines, episode 814, recorded Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. Chesterton's Fence. It's time for Intelligent Machines, the show where we talk about AI, robotics, and intelligence all around us. Not human in most cases, although in some cases. Paris Martineau is back, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Paris.
Hi, Leo.
How was Paris? Paris?
It was fantastic. It was très bien. I had so much fun. Yeah, I had a great time, but I was missing you guys.
When you're in Paris, do you have to call yourself Paris?
No, even when I was in school, in college, I studied abroad there for almost a year. And at that time, I spoke like fluent French. I do not anymore.
Nice.
It's definitely degraded. But even at that time, at the peak of my French speaking ability, where I'd be having a 5-10 minute conversation with a random French person on the street, they'd then ask me like in French, what's your name? And I'd say Paris. And I did versions of this with all different pronunciations of the name. Every single time the response was immediately switch to English. No, I asked you what your name is, not where are we. So when I am in Paris, I specifically do not go by my name Paris because French people don't.
Yeah,
they don't get it. And that's fair. That's a fair point. It's a weird thing for me to be there.
Well, we missed you quite a bit. I'm so glad you're back. You missed some very good conversations, but we have a good one today as well. Jeff will not be here. He was called away to Salem. I hope it's not for
he's
witch
finally
trials.
being tried.
Yeah. he didn't explain. He just said, "Oh, I have to go to Salem." And said, "Oh." Okay.
He's like, they're asking me if I'm lighter than a feather.
But we have both a great interview guest in his place and a guest host in his place. The wonderful Cory Doctorow is here. It's great to see you, Cory. Always a pleasure to have you on. You've been on This Week in Google in the past, and of course, This Week in Tech many times. Did you know, by the way, Cory, we are celebrating our 20th anniversary on Sunday?
Oh my gosh, that's
I know. Make you feel old.
Wow. Well, my daughter's going to college in the fall, so there we go.
You've been on the show since before your daughter was born.
Right.
So at least, probably much of those 20 years you've been on.
I mean, I used to come on the screensavers, so
that's true. I've known you since before then.
At least, because it was at least my first year at EFF, so it's been at least 23 years.
Wow. Anyway, it's always great to have you. Cory is both a fantastic science fiction author. His latest is a continuation in the Marty Hench forensic accountant series, Picks and Shovels, which I hear is doing very well. People love it. I hear a lot from our audience because it's got retro tech in it. It's like the good old days of technology. So congratulations on that.
It's set in the early 1980s, which were, the heroic era of the PC, back before we knew what PCs were for, or like who was supposed to sell them, or who was supposed to buy them, or what shape they were supposed to be. People made weird ass computers. In Ontario, the Ministry of Education made a computer called the Sammy Icon. It's sorry, are you trying to get to Martin Hench there or no?
No, don't look at that. If you're seeing that, click the tab that we should have said this before the show began.
Oh, yeah.
At the top of your Zoom and have the meeting instead of my camera. And I am going to the bezel.org, by the way. But don't let me interrupt the anecdote. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we had these weird computers called the Sammy Icon, and they were a giant injection molded chassis with an inset enormous trackball like you would get on the arcade game of Centipede, and then it booted 3 different operating systems, including a logo prompt So in case you just wanted to like use a logo shell as your daily driver,
I like that.
one of your many options. It was great. It was a beautiful computer. So in Picks and Shovels, Marty Hench, it's his first adventure. He fails out of MIT computer science because he's too busy programming computers to get a computer science degree. And he ends up in a CPA program because he likes the Apple II Pluses they've bought and wants to learn more about VisiCalc, which he can't afford out of pocket. So before he knows it, he's moved out to the Bay Area with his genius coder roommate. And he ends up in this weird PC company called called Fidelity Computing, run by a Mormon bishop, a Catholic priest, and an Orthodox rabbi. The punchline is that it's pyramid selling, that they are selling these DRM locked PCs that like use special paper for the printer and special floppy drives. You can't get your data off of them. They're selling them through pyramid sales into the faith groups and locking them in and taking millions of dollars out of their hide. And Marty pretty quickly figures out he's working for the bad guys and switches sides and goes to work for their competitors, a company called Computing Freedom that was started by 3 of the sales managers from Fidelity who have quit to build computers that unlock the Fidelity PC, a drive that will take any floppy, export tools for your data, new sprockets for your printer so you can standard fanfold paper and so on. And they are an Orthodox woman whose family's kicked her out because she's queer, a nun who's left her order because she got involved with liberation theology, and a Mormon woman who's left the faith because she's pissed off that they oppose the Equal Rights Amendment. And what starts as a commercial dispute becomes a shooting war, and the stakes get really high. So it's a thriller set at the beginning of the AIDS crisis in San Francisco in the 80s. Jello Biafra is playing every weekend. The PC bubble has just kicked off and everyone is trying to figure out what the computer is supposed to be.
I love it. I mean, it's Marty's origin story. That's awesome.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, Cory's not just a novelist, though. He's also an activist. As you mentioned, he worked for the EFF, and he's been, on his pluralistic.net blog, a really outspoken champion of the right to repair, of fighting surveillance capitalism. One of your books, the most recent, is The Internet Con: How to Seize the Means of Communication. Computation. Yes, sorry. I talked to you and Rebecca Giblin when the Choke Point Capitalism came out. I mean, you've done so much for all of us, and of course, most famous for, I hate to say this, but for coining the term enshittification. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be on my tombstone. But the enshittification book, it's in the can. It's coming out in October. The following year, there will be a graphic novel. As I was mentioning before we started recording, we just sold the Polish rights, and I think that's the 8th different language it's been sold into now.
Yeah, it captured people's imagination, mostly, I think, because we all recognized that's what was going on in the world. Like, this was a perfect encapsulation of why everything seemed to be going downhill. They were extracting the maximum value out of us all at this point. And so I think everybody identified it and immediately understood it and agreed. I think nobody disagrees.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
It definitely, we have hit a point now where the platforms are the only game in town. We're all dependent on them to some degree or another, but they are making our lives so miserable. So we're kind of trapped in this fight between, do I stay or do I go? Do I take the hit of leaving behind, if I'm on Facebook, say, all those friends who I know from back in the country I moved away from, who I only communicate with on Facebook, or do I stay and allow Mark Zuckerberg to continue abusing me? And he's really, they've taken us hostage.
This show is primarily these days about not Google anymore, but about AI. And actually, it's really broader than AI, intelligent machines, which covers even more than AI, robotics and IoT and et cetera. The edge, intelligence at the edge, it's everywhere now. Mm-hmm. You've written quite a bit about AI. Do you use AI at all?
No, I am a AI skeptic. And not just an AI skeptic, but a violent AI skeptic, not a violent AI skeptic, a committed AI skeptic, an extremely skeptical AI person. I mean, I use AI in the sense that, like, when I turn on the camera on my Pixel, it figures out where the faces are.
You can't not, Right.
But yeah, do I like rely on spicy autocomplete? No. And the weird little collages that I make for my blog, that's me and the GIMP and the lasso tool, using sources from the Library of Congress and Wikimedia Commons and so on.
You're so retro.
Yeah.
That's delightful.
I like making collages that way. I have a whole theory on it. Maybe we can get into it about like what I think is missing from AI art and why art made by people has something AI art is missing. It's not really a romantic thing. It's kind of an information theory thing.
I didn't realize that all of these were collages that you did. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, they're handmade. I'm doing a book of them in November, just a little one, probably like a 500 copy print run. And I think Creative Commons is going to take most of them as premiums to give away to major donors because it's their 25th anniversary. But it'll be called Canny Valley.
Canny Valley. I love it.
Yeah. And Bruce Sterling's going to write the introduction. So it'll be a nice little book, fun little art book.
Fantastic.
Just in time for Christmas.
So all these images are handcrafted, ladies and gentlemen. Tell us your theory about AI art. Yeah.
I think this is the perfect venue for this also because Leo is a huge AI everything defender, especially AI art.
Okay. Don't doubt me, man. Don't out me to Cory. He used to have some respect for me. Now he's, I'll say my attitude towards it is I'm not a true believer yet because it has been yet to be proven. But I went from agreeing with you that it was spicy autocorrect, it was a parlor trick, to, as I think a lot of people saying, wow, there is something happening here. It is more than just probabilistic prediction about the next pixel or the next word. There's something else going on. And how it will end, I don't know, but I'm kind of open to the thought that maybe it will. I mean, my thought is that we are not necessarily anything more than stochastic parrots. So it is not much of a criticism to say that that's all AI is. I mean, how do we know that what we're doing is not autocomplete? Based on our experience in life.
Well, I think that's a separate question. Maybe I'll tell you what I think about the art first.
Yes, do please.
Talk about what the true nature of human consciousness is, because that's
what the question is.
Yeah. So, let me start with a little parable. So I have a friend who's a law professor. And it used to be that if you were a law professor, only your very best students would hit you up for a letter of reference because everyone knew that they were a pain in the ass to write. And getting a letter of reference from a law professor when you were considering a postdoc was considered meaningful because it was kind of proof of work, right? Like someone put a lot of thought into writing this letter on behalf of the student, and they wouldn't do that if they didn't think highly of the student. So the existence of the letter was in fact an act of communication. In the same way that like, if you hire a fancy law firm to send a threatening letter to someone, irrespective of the contents of the letter, there is a message that travels along with it, which is like, I'm angry enough at you to spend $1,000 to pay someone to threaten you. And maybe I'll spend lots more money to pay people to threaten you later, right? Or to make your life miserable. So there's some like semantics of the letter. So fast forward to the days of LLMs, and my friend now has every grad student ask for a letter of reference because everyone knows that the way you make a letter of reference now is you write 3 bullet points and you ask the LLM to inflate it to 5 paragraphs of nonsense. And as a result, when my friend is considering positions for a postdoc, they are flooded with bajillions of reference letters from other profs that are, again, like inflated from 3 bullet points. And so what do you do with those letters? Because there's no way you can parse them all. You feed them to an LLM and ask them to be reduced to 3 bullet points. Right? Now, here's the thing. Even if we stipulate that the 3 bullet points that come out of the LLM are the 3 bullet points which we know they're not, but even if this were a lossless process, it is, I think, incontrovertible that nothing else in the letter, right, the other 5 paragraphs matter, in the sense that the LLM knows nothing about this law student and cannot convey a single meaningful thing about the law student, right? They are just doing probabilistic guessing. So the communicative freight in the letter consists of 3 bullet points, that it cannot consist of more, right? There's where would the information come from, right? Claude Shannon decrees that the only information in the letter of reference is the prompt and everything else is nothing. It's padding. Okay, so when I write a novel, I am making hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of tiny little subconscious communicative decisions, right? Which word goes where is about trying to convey something to you, right? And I think that, art is the process of taking a big, irreducible, numinous feeling that is in the creator's head, imbuing some intermediate medium with that numinous thing as best as you can, whether that's like a dance or a painting or a sculpture or a novel or a song, and then hoping that some facsimile of that materializes in an audience member's head when they experience the work. And so I am making millions of tiny decisions in service to transpiring that big, numinous, irreducible feeling from my mind into yours. And so the communicative density of a novel or of a painting, if you're doing brushstrokes, we were talking about these weird collages I do, I download these like 15,000 pixel wide Hieronymus Bosch scans from the Internet Archive or from the Library of Congress. And I trace out individual figures at maximum magnification, and I'm touching the brushstrokes of Hieronymus Bosch. And there is some communication there, right? He and I are reaching across time and space, and I am learning something about what he was trying to do by the decisions that he made when he put his brush on the canvas, right? So when I prompt an LLM to draw something or write something, the most communicative freight it can have is the prompt, right? By definition, the LLM isn't communicating anything to you, right? The LLM has no thing to say to you. It is not in possession of a big, numinous, irreducible feeling that it hopes to materialize in your head. It's just making some guesses about what goes at the next pixel of the next word. And so while those may be good sentences, or while the draftsmanship of the LLM or the image generator may be good, the communicative intent cannot be expanded beyond the amount of communication in the prompt. The communication in the prompt is all of the effort that the creator has made to transfer a big, numinous, irreducible feeling from themselves to you. That's all there is, right? So the more communications that the creative worker has with the AI, the more density there will be. So if you generate 50 of them and pick one, well, that's 2 communicative decisions that you've made. If you reprompt, that's 3 or 4, maybe 10. Maybe the reprompt is very complicated. And of course, not every communication needs to be big in order to be meaningful, right? When you have Duchamp, getting a urinal and putting it sideways and writing Armada on the side, which is a very famous piece of art, right? It carries a lot of communicative freight, but most very significant acts of communication are more than a few words, right? They require some material in order to be unpacked. There are some very moving haiku, but not as many as there are moving novels. And so at best, what you can say is that a creative worker in possession of some extremely compact and very meaningful artistic statement has fed it to an LLM that has then diluted it, that one meaningful thing, among a million machine-generated decisions, such that the average amount of communication per pixel or word is still homeopathically low. And so for me, this is why AI art feels at best eerie, where eeriness is defined as the seeming of intent without an intender, like the way the planchette of the Ouija board moves, right? That's what makes it eerie, the seeming of intent without an intender. And so at best it is eerie, and at worst it's just soulless, right? It's that whatever communicative freight it's carrying is spread so thin that it becomes undetectable amid the plausible sentences and the excellent draftsmanship. So that's my AI art theory.
I think it's interesting. Certainly, I like that you're applying information theory to this. And it's almost Newtonian. There's no additional energy provided. You can't get any more energy out of it. The question I would have is, but is it possible? So, for instance, with Duchamp's urinal, a lot of the information was added by the viewer. That's often the case with art, right? And that's that eerie thing that you're talking about, the intention without an intender, is added by the viewer. So there's some information added there, but is it not possible that the AI itself is in fact doing more than simply churning on existing content, isn't it possible that the AI is making connections that are in effect adding information?
But
even if I'm sorry, go ahead, Paris.
I'm excited to hear your point. I just wanted to add something because I see also in the Discord chat, people are kind of raising the same kind of comment with regards to, I don't know the artist's name, but the famous banana taped to a wall.
That guy.
In addition to Duchamp. But
right.
I think in both cases, the thing that differentiates what could be perceived as low effort in comparison, I say that with air quotes because I don't personally believe that they're low effort pieces of art, but things that are perceived as low effort, what differentiates that from AI art is that there is an artist that is creating it.
Yeah.
There is an intender. There is someone who is conceived of this and is making decisions with the intent that it is going to be perceived. That does not exist when you have a machine that is purely like pattern completing, creating some of these things.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And I mean, even if you stipulate that the AI is somehow adding information, the information it's adding, like we do know enough about how the AI works. So what the AI is adding is the most plausible information, right? It's finding the median information that would likely accompany this thing. And so to the extent that art is mostly about surprise, I don't think that it will make the art better. But even if you're like, well, no, even the median information is good information to be adding, it is not information about the big, numinous, irreducible feeling the author or the creator is feeling. And I don't think AIs have big, numinous, irreducible feelings. I think AIs do really interesting statistical work.
I think that's almost a religious belief, though, isn't it? I mean, it's a belief that somehow we are different. That we somehow have a soul. You know, I always bring up.
I'm not entirely sure, because if we are trying to, the part of the modern, and not even, I guess, modern, part of our long-standing as a collective, as a human society's approach to interpreting and engaging with art involves subjectivity, and it involves having an understanding, a perception of, a debate around authorial intent. And you can't do that if there is no author. If an author is an unthinking, unfeeling,
again, that is
unmotivated thing.
That is a perspective that we have as humans, that somehow we are different, that machine is unthinking, unfeeling. But I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a chauvinistic point of view. I'm not convinced that that's the case. And at the very least, I think you could say that AI can make connections that a human wouldn't necessarily think of, that might in fact be insightful. I'll give you as an example, move 37, the famous AlphaGo move in the Go match between Lee Sedol and AlphaGo, that all the humans thought initially was a mistake, and ultimately thought this is a breathtaking innovation that no human would have ever thought of. So where did that come from?
No, I mean,
again,
I think that's different than art, though.
No, it's not. It's creative. Whatever it is, it's creative. I don't think it's different than art. It's
an innovation. I think that innovations in terms of in terms of things that a machine is being created to do, sure, of course, it's going to innovate when it comes to tasks, or potentially complete tasks in ways that are unexpected. I don't think that either of us are arguing that. Well, that's always been my criterion for saying that there's something valuable coming out of AIs. If it is indeed just a remixing machine, then you're right. It's not meaningful. But if it at any point can make a connection that didn't exist before, that a human might not have seen, that is adding information. That is something of value. Can it do that? I don't want to put words in Cory's mouth, but for me at least, I don't think I was arguing that AI and technology will never be able to create value as defined as some sort of connection that didn't exist before. Of course it will. That's what a lot of these machines are trained to do. I think that's different than, does this have artistic authorial merit? Sorry, I've interrupted you twice now, Cory.
No, that's okay. I wanted to say, just jumping back a couple of steps, it is possible to be a materialist, and I consider myself a materialist, to disbelieve in the soul and to still think that we are not just in a continuum with AI. In the same way that it's possible to say, I don't care how fast these horses that you've been selectively breeding are getting, there is no point at which one of them will give birth to a locomotive. Right? The fact that it's getting better at guessing words doesn't mean it's becoming more intelligent or more like us. So I can believe that what we are doing is mechanical in some sense without having to believe that it is the same mechanism that takes place in these word guessing programs. So that would be the first response I would have in terms of addressing whether this is art and whether the machine is creative. On the Go move, I don't know enough about it, but I would say that, and I don't know if anyone ever did any forensics on the underlying process that produced that Go move, but if imagine for a moment that what we have is a program that does directed random walks through a problem space. And so what it's doing is it's saying, like, I can, in tractable time, compute 9 moves ahead. And I am going to, with some randomness, compute as many of these nine ahead moves as I can and try and find ones that take me into unexplored parts of the problem space, right? Now, that's a mechanical exercise. It's a thing a human could do with a piece of graph paper and 1,000,000 years, right? But it's not a thing that humans do normally. And it is the kind of thing that automation can do for us that's really exciting, right? Like asking a computer to solve, computationally hard programs like variations on traveling salesman or whatever will often give you results that are quite surprising. We get this all the time with agent simulations, right? Where, famously the Santa Fe Institute for years and years would get called in to consult on how to decrease traffic in cities, and they would recommend choking off traffic on certain streets so that it changed the cadence with which the traffic was reaching the main arteries so that cars would be more broadly spaced and you wouldn't get the ripple effects where when someone touches the brake, the cars all slow down and that creates a continuous eddy where the cars are just slow at that spot for 45 minutes or whatever. And they got there through agent modeling, right? They got there through this surprising, counterintuitive, quasi brute force computational exercise. And it is a very counterintuitive, and I think you could say creative way of solving the problem. And the person who wrote that program was being creative, but the program wasn't creative. The program was a tool for creativity of the programmer.
Yeah, this comes back to the kind of the fundamental question that I had. If everything's deterministic, you're right. Determinism, it says, given a starting point and a set of steps, you're always going to get to the final point. And that's what coding does. Your description really is reflective of how chess works. It's very much computational, but that's why Go was a little bit more interesting because the possible moves in Go are so huge that it isn't really able to solve it computationally. Even in a chess program, you have to at some point make a positional judgment, which is not based on computation. In the case of a rules-based AI, it looks at, whatever rules it has and says, well, based on that, I say black is ahead by 0.7 points. Go is more complicated. The positionality is very complicated. I think you're verging on the numinal, but that's really the question to me, ultimately. I don't know what the answer is, but I think we're seeing a glimmer, and I think Move 37 is an example. I think there are many other examples. In fact, in later Go programs like AlphaZero, where it wasn't, in fact, given any games or anything but the rules of the game, and it learned the game itself by playing them, that there are connections that are made. This was Stephen Wolfram's contention a few weeks ago on the show, that maybe humans wouldn't have seen or wouldn't have come up with. And that is adding, in my opinion, that is adding information and proves the point that it is possible for this stochastic parrot to actually be more than simply spicy autocorrect, but actually to insert more information into the system. Now, maybe it's just a bit initially, but if you agree that it's possible that it's adding information to the system, then that changes the equation. It isn't simply a mechanistic, deterministic, well, this, then that. it is now adding something. And I think adding information is as good as we're going to get. We can't define consciousness, but I think it's as good as we're going to get. It's what I've always said, for me, will be the ultimate criterion of whether a machine is doing something valuable is if it can create, in the sense that it can add information, it could do something a human wouldn't necessarily be able to do, then it is valuable. Whether it's AGI or superintelligence is irrelevant to me.
So, again, I want to just tease apart a couple of ideas. So first is whether I think things can be mechanical without being deterministic. We have lots of mechanisms that we struggle to predict the outcomes of. And very famously, the halting state problem says that computer programs beyond a pretty trivial level of complexity cannot be predicted, right? They are not deterministic. This is where bugs come from, right? We don't know what state.
If we had perfect information, we would know where the bug came from. But I would agree with you that that's the thing. That's what's going on with these machine learning models, with these transformers. That is what is different. Is it's somewhat of a black box, and we can't. It's not deterministic. We can't figure out what's going on.
I believe it's Turing Church who defined the halting state problem, but their contention, and I don't have the math to follow it, but their contention is that no, even if you understand the program perfectly, you cannot predict how it will terminate.
Okay.
That is.
So it's not an information. It's not a lack of information. It's just not predictable. Yeah.
Halting state problem is what you're looking for.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You're still looking at my screen.
I don't know
Knock it
how
off.
to get it off. That might. You know what? I've stopped using the Zoom app because
you're
it's
on
so
the
bad
web.
under Linux, and now
maybe you don't have the
browsers.
choice.
Yeah.
Do you see a 3-up right now at all?
Yeah, I got. Yeah.
Okay.
Across the top.
So yeah, that's fine. As long as you see the 3-up, remember that's what's going out.
Your screen is,
and you're gonna see my screen. Unfortunately.
Yeah, your screen is spotlit for reasons I don't understand.
You're going to see how much
pin.
Leo uses perplexity for every single thing on this show.
It's supposed to be secret. No, that's just my search. I no longer use Google for obvious reasons.
I use Kagi.
I used Kagi for a long time. I stopped paying $25 a month to use Kagi.
Well, that's for your whole family. It's $10 a month for just you.
I was the only one using it.
Yeah,
so okay, $10.
Leo's
I was paying
got to
$25.
use the most expensive subscription possible, of course.
And I pay $20 for Perplexity, so it's not free.
Sure, but so that was the first thing, is that I don't know that just because things are mechanical, it implies that they're
is dividing by zero a halting state?
No, that's just a mathematical problem.
Okay.
No, the halting state problem is that there we are. Yeah. So again, we are now, as we look at I'm looking at your screen, and we are now at a point where the math is going over my head. Yeah. So I, as the son of a mathematician, I know what math I'm not qualified to understand.
Me too.
This is firmly in that realm. Yeah. But my lay understanding of it is that the halting state problem says that we do not know how a program will terminate until we run the program. So it can be mechanical without being deterministic, is my broader point.
Okay.
So it doesn't, just because I think we are mechanical, it doesn't mean
I'll stipulate that. Okay.
And the second thing I wanted to say about adding information is surprising you with juxtapositions that you hadn't contemplated is indeed a very fruitful creative exercise. There's the exquisite corpse game where people write sentences without knowing what sentence comes before it and so on. When I was at the Clarion Science Fiction Workshop 30 years ago with Nancy Kress, the great writer, she said, we can plot stories that begin with a person and a place of the problem. So each of you write a person, a place, and a problem on a separate sheet of paper. We're going to scramble them up and hand them back to you. And you're going to try and write a story to that prompt. So these random prompts can be extremely creativity provoking. People talk about how laying a tarot helps them clarify their thoughts or make novel connections they hadn't made before, even if they don't believe in anything metaphysical going on with the tarot deck. And there are storytelling cards that are like this too. Very famously, you have Brian Eno's Oblique Strategies deck, which is full of prompts that he used when Talking Heads and Roxy Music were recording, like, be the first person to not do something that no one else has ever thought of not doing before. That.
Yeah.
And
that's hard,
all of these things
great.
Are super interesting.
Yeah.
And you can imagine how a machine that makes unexpected connections on the basis of some algorithmic whatever, whether it's statistical analysis of a huge corpus of language, or whether it is some interesting stuff where you're trying to hill climb towards a certain maximum, but you're traversing the information scape horizontally because you think you've reached a local maximum. You're trying to find somewhere to go up. So you get these weird, unexpected connections, and then the human reviews the connection and goes, aha, that's really interesting. And that's what I think you have to do when we're talking about art, because art does not have an objective.
Well, that's why art is maybe a bad way to measure this, because there is no. That's why I like Go, for instance. There's no measurable victory or no end, right? But we have very clear goals with a lot of other human endeavors that we can say, yeah, you did it or you didn't do it. So, and
I can believe that you can have a computer program that self-varies, where there is another program that says you got closer that time, try some variations.
In fact, that's what these reasoning models are doing these days, right?
Which works when you have an objective function. So, but it also, we have to remember the AI companies have been less than forthcoming in terms of their outcomes. So the
we don't know. It's a black box.
DeepMind and its material science breakthroughs, where they said they'd done 800 years of material science breakthroughs, generated something like millions of synthetic materials, and
most of them were worthless, right?
Yeah, well, no, 0 of them in a random sample were
worth anything.
Either a thing that you could make. So most of them required that they would only exist at absolute 0, and the ones that could exist in tractable temperatures either had no novel properties or no useful properties, or both.
So material scientists were not able to use any of that generated information. Zero. That's
I mean, it's a huge number of materials. So they did random sampling. They tried to find a statistically relevant sample, a representative sample, and then they examined each of them, and they found.
So that would be, for me, that would be my Turing test. My measure of something happening is if a machine could come up with a new material that was A, creatable, and B, usable, that would validate by itself, validate the work done on these things, right? It would be of use.
Sure. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be of $100 billion worth of use.
I agree. We don't know.
So maybe, but
if you came up with a cure for cancer, that would be of use.
We're always saying, if AI came up with a cure for cancer, it'd be of use. That could be said of a lot of things.
But you don't know until you try.
The cat came up with a cure for cancer, that'd be of use. But we're not giving her $300 billion. Well,
but it seems like it's worth trying. Does it not? Or are you saying it's not? Do you feel like it's not worth it?
I think it's certainly worth it. I question Gizmo heard her name and is now sitting up in the background of my shot.
See, she says, I've got a cure right here. You just never listen to me.
I just never give her $300 billion and she's holding out. I think it's certainly worthwhile. I think that the thing that is still that we still haven't figured out is whether or not it's worthwhile spending a unprecedented amount of capital and resources and devoting an unprecedented amount of collective attention worldwide. Like,
I'm getting too head up. My watch just told me it's going to call 911, so I'm going to calm down right now.
Okay, to help you calm down, I
have to do an ad. That's how I'm going to calm down. Don't introduce anything else. Hold on. Hold that thought. No, you can do it in a minute. I do have this article from MIT's Technology Review saying that DeepMind did in fact create 700 materials.
I'll find you the article that reviewed that conclusion.
Oh, okay, interesting. No, I believe you. This was from a paper in Nature. Okay, interesting. But first, a word from our sponsor. It's so good to have you. Cory Doctorow is here. It's so good to have you back. Paris Martineau from The Information. Jeff Jarvis is kicking himself that he couldn't be here today. Cory's new book is now out, Picks and Shovels. You find it at thebezel.org or craphound.net. Is it .net or .com? .com. Pluralistic.net for his blog. Our show today, I'll tell you what. I can prove to you this tool is worth every penny you pay for it. It's brought to you by Monarch Money. Nowadays, keeping track of your money is a chore a computer can do quite well. Finances can be very tricky, very confusing. Monarch Money, remember that name, Monarch Money, acts like your I don't know, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you could stop earning and start growing. It's more than your average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center for your accounts, your investments, and your goals. I put everything in there, everything, and makes it, by the way, it's very easy. It took me 10 minutes to set it up. And now I'm doing more than just managing my money. I am looking at what's going on. I'm seeing where I can make changes, make improvements. I'm building my wealth. And by the way, you can do it too with 50% off for your first year if you go to monarchmoney.com and use the code IM. There's so many valuable things. I get alerts from Monarch Money. It also, with the stock market being a little nutty right now, it helps me see what's happening, where there are options. It really helps me manage my finances to build the life I'm planning for. And as I approach retirement, that becomes more and more important. But I think it's important for everybody of every age. Without a clear financial picture, you don't know where your financial dreams are. They might be way out of reach. Monarch Money makes managing money simple, even for busy lives. There's no data entry. Once you set it up, it automatically keeps track of everything on your computer, on your phone, on your iPad, on the web, wherever you are. You could see everything, your accounts, your credit cards, your investments, all in one dashboard. You'll always know where your money stands without the hassle. And it's great. It's great for budgeting. I don't budget. I suppose I should. But if you wanted to set up a budget without all the tedium of it, this makes it so much easier to track your spending, your savings, your investments. You could focus on what matters most, making your biggest life goals a reality, saying, I'm going to spend a little less here so I can spend a little more there. It's the financial tool people actually love. Over 1 million households now using Monarch Money. Wall Street Journal said it's the best budgeting app of 2025. I would agree. It's the top recommended personal finance app, recommended by users and experts. 30,000 5-star reviews. I love it. I love it. I signed up for a year immediately. Visit monarchmoney.com. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. And when you use the code IM for intelligent machines at monarchmoney.com in your browser, you'll get half off for your first year. 50% off for your first year. That's another way to save, isn't it? Monarch Money, come to think of it, .com. Use the code IM. And I promise, will thank me later. monarchmoney.com. Offer code IM for 50% off for your first year. Cory has sent along the article from, who is that? ACS? Pubs.acs. Artificial Intelligence Driving Materials Discovery? ?
It's the American Chemistry Society or Chemical
good.
Society's journal.
That makes sense.
It's not Nature, but it is the leading journal in material science.
I think it's kind of the response to the Nature article,
right.
In fact. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so there's a debate. That's interesting. And I think I would trust the chemists to say they said, we believe the experimentalists would find it helpful if the results are presented in a more organized manner rather than a seemingly random walk through the periodic table. Okay. So there's some suggestions for how to make it better. Do they deny, though, the possibility that new materials could be created by deep mind?
No, they don't deny that at all. But I think that line about random walks, it's not just a burn, right? It is a critique of this brute force approach.
Yeah.
And really critique of what the objective function that they're asking the AI to have. So I could conceive of a world in which you say to the AI, go find me materials, but don't tell me about them unless they satisfy these, 11 criteria that would mean that they have a colorable case of being useful. But I think if that were the case, then your press release would be like, we ran a program for a year and we found one thing that might be useful, and not we ran a program for a year and we found 1 million things that have advanced the science by 800 years, which was the original claim from DeepMind. That
they do say in their very last sentence, while we are confident the tools of artificial intelligence and machine learning have a bright future in the fields of material discovery, more work needs to be done before that promise is fulfilled. So they don't deny the potential value.
Automation is good. Yeah, they're not saying automation won't produce dividends.
Yeah.
But I think back to what Paris was saying before, even if you stipulate that after $800 billion, or however many billions of dollars that we're going to spend on AI, you get one cure for one kind of cancer. we have to make sure we're not excluding the middle here. And the other possibility between we spent $800 billion and we got one cure for one kind of cancer with AI, and we spent nothing and we didn't get a cure for cancer, is we spent some fraction of $800 billion on some other technique and we got one or more cures for one or more kinds of cancer too, right?
Yes, it's to some degree a zero-sum game. You don't have an infinite amount of dollars to spend, and so you want to spend it in the place that will be potentially the most useful. But how do we know?
Well, we don't, but we do have people pursuing various techniques who are starved for cash, right? And who have had good results. And particularly now in the Doge austerity era, right? We have a lot of public sector research that unless it connects itself to AI in order to be buzzword compliant, struggles to find funding, even if it's already had successes in the past. Yeah. So I would say that given that we have taken capital from those people and in some meaningful way reallocated it to a much more speculative AI technique, that capital is not being rationally allocated, even if it pays off, right? You can hit the craps table and hit sevens 3 times in a row and walk away with a lot of money. That doesn't make it a rational bet, right? Just means that you got lucky, and maybe we'll get lucky, right? Well,
what do you propose? Should we not be spending money, time, and let's face it, global resources on AI?
I think we should approach AI as a useful piece of utility automation and not as a transformative technology that is going to be worth $13 trillion, which is what we're doing right now.
Yeah, Sam Altman said we need to spend at least $1 trillion to get to where we want to go, and that's a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah, I think that most things in the world, be it technology or otherwise, you could argue would be world-changingly transformative if you spent $1 trillion on making it so.
Right. Mm-hmm. Where do you stand, Cory, on the threat that AI poses to humanity?
So I think that, as a materialist, I think when you're critiquing what people do, you should think about their material circumstances. So I think that AI companies have a bunch of lines of business in their business plan and their PowerPoint deck that are threatening to us, like automated judgments about who should be an immigrant and who should be turned away from the border, or who should be denied bail or not, or whether your kid should be taken away, or whether you get a job, or whether you get a lease, whether you get a loan. Those are all things where AI can significantly harm people.
And probably is right now.
And probably certainly are. I mean, there was just an academic who was black bagged by Donald Trump goon squad because an AI generated pro-Israeli newspaper called her an anti-Semite because it said that she had attended this rally, and that rally had this speaker, and that speaker had been somewhere else, and that person had been affiliated with Hamas. Therefore, blah, blah, blah. Right. So, we already have a world in which AI-based nonsense.
Although the flaw there is abandoning due process because AI told you so.
Indeed. So the thing is that AI really only works as an automation tool that saves money as opposed to one that improves outcomes if you abandon due process. So I see on your screen, you keep bringing up this radiology story. It's an issue.
This is from the Washington Post earlier this week. AI hasn't killed radiology, but it is changing it. The claim being it has been helpful to radiologists, and they are getting better outcomes with the help of AI.
So I am really interested in this because I have an extremely treatable form of cancer. So I am suddenly someone who's a lot more interested in cancer than I was a year ago.
Cory, I did not know this. I'm sorry.
I've written about it. It's fine. It is totally fine. I'm having some minor radiotherapy in June, and the prognosis is excellent.
It
should be fine. But this is a subject I'm now very personally interested in a way that used to be a lot more abstract. So here's what I think. There are, and it appears to be the case, there are algorithms that are better at spotting certain kinds of solid mass tumors than human radiologists, right? So the ones that the humans miss, the software can pick up. It doesn't imply the other way around, by the way, that the ones that the humans get, the robot will also get just as well. But if this is the case, then you could imagine a hospital saying, okay, we have a radiologist, and right now that radiologist reviews 50 x-rays a day. And we are going to add some software to it that's going to do a second opinion on all those x-rays. And when they disagree, which is going to happen about once a day, that radiologist is going to go back and recheck their results. So now that radiologist is going to do 49 x-rays a day. There is no hospital administrator who is buying AI because they want their radiologist to do fewer scans. The pitch from an AI salesman is fire most of your radiologists.
Right.
Have the machines do all the work and have the human act as what Dan Davies calls an accountability sink, or what's also been called a moral crumple zone. So it is their job to absorb the blame when you die because the software missed your tumor, right? Because they were the person the human being who was supposedly in the loop, who put their initials next to the robot's conclusion, but who was asked to work at a pace where there was no conceivable way they would review the robot's findings. So again, I think this is like a socially determined outcome, not a technical one. Yeah. But I think that, like, back to business plans, nowhere on the business plan of the AI company making the radiology bot is the thing where they say, well, this is how much money we expect to make from hospitals that are going to increase their costs, and this is how much we expect to make from hospitals that will decrease their costs. Right? They only have a line item for increasing their costs.
Right.
And so when we find ourselves arguing about things that AI companies don't plan on making money on, like the AI waking up, becoming super intelligent, and turning us all into paper clips, or even AI disinformation in elections. There's no AI business plan that's like, we are going to make so many millions this year selling AI disinformation tools for the upcoming election. So when we focus our attention on that, we focus our attention on a thing that, even if we all agree that this is bad and we have to do something about it, no AI company is poorer as a result. And when you have companies that are spending the largest amount of money any companies have ever spent in the history of the world, and all the debate about their activities focuses on things they never plan on making money on, I'm inclined to think that those two things are related, that those AI companies are asking us to train our focus on things they never plan to turn into a product, so that we are not focusing on the things that they're actually out there selling right now that are not fit for purpose.
And to complete the thought on this Washington Post article, they do say most AI detection products produce false positives that radiologists are responsible for following up on. Here's a quote that says AI that's focused on detecting abnormalities can actually create more work for the radiologist. So I think your moral crumple zone analogy is quite.
I can write you a one-line Perl program that catches every tumor that the radiologist misses.
Right.
All it does is says that every X-ray it examines has a tumor.
Right.
Right. By definition, it's going to catch every tumor that the radiologist misses.
Yeah, really an excellent point. We're talking
hate him.
We're talking to Cory Doctorow, who's always, I have to say, always been a real refreshing antidote to some of the frothiness that you see in technology. And AI is as frothy as you can get. Meta just got in a lot of trouble because they basically gamed the benchmarks with their release of Llama 4. This is from The Verge. With Llama 4, Meta fudged the benchmarks. This confirms, by the way, Cory, what you've been saying, to appear as though the new AI model is better than the competition. But in fact, the model that they submitted is not publicly available, and in fact, it may be that it was trained on the test, in effect.
Wait, so how did it fudge the benchmarks?
In fine print, Meta acknowledges the version of Maverick tested at LM Arena isn't the same as that available to the public. According to Meta's own materials, it deployed this is all from The Verge, an experimental chat version of Maverick that was, quote, specifically optimized for conversationality.
Hi, this is Benito. We should never trust meta statistics ever.
I think you're right. We've learned that lesson, haven't we?
We learned that in Pivot to Video.
Hands up everyone who pivoted to video.
Exactly.
Well, what's interesting, though, and Meta knows this, is that the news that they were the best at LM Arena traveled the world, and I think that this disclaimer probably is not as well known. It's still putting its pants on.
Well, I gave you a link in the chat to Goodhart's Law, which is that any benchmark becomes a target and then ceases to be useful as a benchmark.
Oh, I love that. And that does happen, doesn't it? We've seen it again and again.
Every
Yeah.
time. GDP is like the embodiment of that. You can make number go up without making national prosperity go up.
Yeah.
For sure.
Moments like
And
this
yeah,
remind
Meta
me
are
of
habitual liars, and memorizing the test is a great way to pass the test. This is all that stuff about AIs passing the LSAT. It seems really likely that AIs were trained on the LSAT
Yeah.
answers. That doesn't mean they're a lawyer.
So, is there any justification for continuing AI research, continuing work, or is this just a complete waste of money?
I mean, I wouldn't say everybody should shut down absolutely everything. I think that's certain. I don't think it should be as binary and black and white as I don't think the two options.
so
are
how do you
spend
respond then?
trillions of dollars
Yeah.
or we spend zero. I think there's a way to treat this like any other technology and invest a reasonable amount that the market can bear and that we think could, produce results and be aligned with the amount of capital invested.
Cory, what do you think?
I think that's completely right. I mean, there are lots of things that people have done with AI that I find super interesting. I think maybe when the last time I was on TWiT, we talked about For Thieves Vinegar Collective, which is this group of rogue pharmaceutical chemists who presented
Yes.
on this year.
Are they using AI?
So they have made a chemical synthesis answer machine search engine. So if you go to Wikipedia and you look up any small complex organic molecule, so like the one-shot hepatitis C cure, for example, it has a what's called a smile code, which is a short string of ASCII, and there's even a button to copy it to your clipboard. You go to their search engine, you paste it in. It has ingested the entire organic chemistry synthesis literature. And it says you get these precursors and you get these reagents and you combine them in this order at these temperatures in this way, and this is how you synthesize this molecule. And it's extremely reliable. Like, that's a super interesting application. And they pair it with an open source compounding pharmacy robot that's basically functionally equivalent to the ones that compounding pharmacy would buy for $50,000. But you make it yourself with a Raspberry Pi and some peristaltic pumps for like $500.
Have you built this for yourself, Cory?
I have not, but I watched them assemble one on stage from scratch during the talk and then take requests from the audience for molecules. So the first thing they made was the one-shot hepatitis C cure, but it was DEF CON. So there were a ton of people who were on various kinds of hormone therapy because they were trans. So they made testosterone and estrogen.
Nice.
They made medication abortion. They made... what else did they make? They made, Vyvanse, which is the ADHD drug that was having supply chain problems where if you go cold turkey on it, you get seizures. So they made their own Vyvanse. So they were taking requests for molecules on stage and making it. You can go and download
I'm on their website. They made Plan B. A version of Plan B that has also extra stuff in it. Awesome.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. And their goal, like, they saw the Trump administration coming. And this was their goal, was to say that you should never be reliant on the pharmaceutical industry or the government to get the drugs that you need to stay alive. And so they made this open source hardware robot. It was the most interesting presentation I've ever seen at DEF CON. I've seen some pretty interesting presentations at DEF CON over the years.
Are you still working with EFF?
I am.
I thought you were.
I'm a special consultant, special advisor. I'm an activist with EFF.
Yeah. So you write, in the 23 years I've been at EFF, I've been privileged to get a front row seat for some of the most important legal battles over tech and human rights in history. This is from your article that the EFF is suing Doge.
Yeah, we were the first people to sue Doge. We're suing them on behalf of two unions representing federal workers. And we brought a case under the Privacy Act to say that by the Office of Personnel Management giving access to their records to Doge, that they had violated the Privacy Act, and the court dismissed the government's attempt to get our case thrown out, but did say that we have to bring our claims under the Administrative Procedures Act. So this is getting a little esoteric, but the Administrative Procedures Act just determines how federal agencies are allowed to work, but you're not usually allowed to use it until you've exhausted other remedies. And what the court said was that we could skip straight to an Administrative Procedures Act claim, which is good. It's very good. And they threw out all of the government's objections, and they said that all of our claims are adjudicable And so as we move forward into the actual trial, all of our claims will be heard.
Who adjudicates these procedural lawsuits? Is it a court process?
This will be heard by a court. I don't think this is an administrative law judge that will hear this. Yeah. And you're now getting out of my legal knowledge. I am an activist, not a lawyer. So
yeah. Well, they got some very good lawyers at EFF.
We sure do.
And they're joining a chorus, of course, of lawsuits, some of which have been thrown out. SCOTUS, I think, rejected somebody for lack of standing yesterday.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we won. We won a standing challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, to prove that you have it would seem the unions would have standing, but
right. But this is always a problem. I mean, look, one of the problems is when everyone is implicated, you have to prove that you are implicated.
Right.
So we had this problem with our case, Jewel, and another case that we brought as well that were both NSA spying cases. So in 2006, an ex-AT&T technician named Mark Klein walked into our offices around the corner from Tech TV Studios on Shotwell Street. And he said, I just retired from AT&T and my boss made me build a secret room in the Folsom
Oh,
Street
yes. He just passed the other day. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And we put a beam splitter in and we let the NSA wiretap the whole internet. And we brought two cases.
That was your case.
And the thing that the court wanted us to do was prove that our clients had been spied on by the NSA.
Right.
But the NSA said all of the evidence that they'd been spied on was secret.
Right.
So we had all these secrecy challenges. One of the cases lasted about 10 years. The other one lasted about 15. Both of them were eventually dismissed for lack of standing. So this is often a problem when you have these really cases that implicate everyone, is you have to find evidence of particularized harm, not general harm. And so there's this weird way in which the courts say, no, they spied on everyone, so you can't prove they spied on anyone. And that's really weird. It's a terrible catch-22.
Yeah, and I would agree with you that using AI as Doge is using it to decide who to fire, to rewrite the code for the Social Security Administration, and it looks like now the IRS, is probably a bridge too far. As much as I like AI, that's not where that is a place where AI can cause a lot of harm.
Or having it craft a tariff policy for that matter.
Yeah, I don't, who knows where Trump got his mathematical formula.
Do we think a human being sat down and just went through all the CCTLDs and did the math on that? And that's an AI.
But somebody came up with the idea of, we'll take their deficit, we'll divide it by,
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Or
and
maybe
then asked to ChatGPT, so tell us make this chart for us.
Maybe they said to the ChatGPT, though, maybe they said, tell me what a good tariff policy would be. We don't know. Again,
we don't know. A number of people have tried giving that prompt to all the major models, and all of them came up with the same mathematics, as far as I know. So maybe that's what they did. It was telling that the chart was in some sort of AI order, not alphabetical or numeric.
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing AI will do.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it didn't quite have the phrase "as a large language model," I am not capable of advising you on this. But
it was close. It came
pretty fucking close. Excuse me, pretty dang close.
Well, the good news is, as of about 5 hours ago, most of those tariffs have been walked back.
Paused.
Pause.
Well,
paused. Yeah, I mean, the uncertainty remains. But the tariff against China is now ratcheting up past
90%. 90% for small packages from Shein and Temu.
Yeah, it's going to put Shein and Temu out of business, and it's got to damage Amazon.
I mean, most goods that come from China or pass
all that fast fashion in your closet there.
Not even just fast fashion, like the parts of anything that ends up assembled in America.
As well as everything you might use to build factories in America that can do high-tech, high precision manufacturing.
Hey, we got 90 days to build those factories, so it'll be fine, actually.
Okay.
And reshoring is hard. So I had an interesting conversation with Bunny Wang, who's a real
love Bunny
hardware hacking virtuoso, about the CHIPS Act, and he predicted that the CHIPS Act would fail. And I asked him why, and he said, "Look, to make an extremely advanced microprocessor, something with sort of 4 nanometer features, you need to have a country with an amazing education system and a useless passport, and that's Taiwan. Because the process of making those 4 nanometer features starts with you getting into a bunny suit for 8 hours at a time without a pee break, 3 shifts a day, with your PhD in electrical engineering, while you see a machine whose first step is vaporizing tin into an evacuated chamber, tracking each of the vaporized droplets with one vision system, hitting it each one with a laser, with one kind of laser to flatten it into a coin shape, hitting it with another laser to vaporize it so that it creates the right wavelength of light to etch the wafer. But the wafers have to be prepared in like a 10-hour process so that they're within 1 atom of each other's weights, and they spin on a turntable like this, and if they're like off by a bazillionth of a gram, then they are out of whack, and they start, your features aren't etched correctly. And he said, like, you can only do that if you have a PhD in electrical engineering. You need to do that. You need to have that level of knowledge to keep that machine running. And they pay $55,000 a year. So if you know anyone with an American PhD in electrical engineering who wants to spend from midnight to 8 a.m. in a bunny suit with no pee breaks, babysitting that machine for $55,000 a year, then sure. But like, we are a ways off from reshoring that capability, even if you think that reshoring it is a good idea, which I do. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to require a lot of very complex, long-run phenomena to play out.
I've paraphrased you. You actually mentioned this on a TWiT episode some weeks back, and I paraphrased you many times since then. You're just not going to get these people. And the important point there was the weak passport. They can't leave Taiwan. Yeah. Many of them have been imported into Arizona for the, these TSMC factories, but whether they'll stay is another matter. Right.
And whether they'll do the job for $55,000 a year in Arizona is also a question.
Yeah, you go through almost a decade worth of schooling, all to stay in a room in the hottest state, wearing your bunny suit while having to pee.
Yeah, Even the odd trip to the Grand Canyon won't make up for it.
when it's November and it's 98 degrees outside, you might be regretting your choices.
Yeah.
You all saw the video that was made in China mocking the American American worker trying to do the factory work that the Chinese do so cheaply. Currently.
Oh, I didn't see this, but
this is AI. This is AI created.
I saw a lot of memes of MBA bros wearing their puffer vests,
sitting at
to make iPhones.
Yeah. This is not a good job. This is not a job Americans will do. And
maybe that maybe there are I think reshoring some capability to manufacture critical goods is a good idea as a hedge against climate shocks, geopolitical shocks, and so on, even future pandemics. I just don't think you do it by shutting everything down, right? That project would require an enormous amount of technology transfer from China. And you don't get that while having a belligerent relationship with China. Yeah. The China did not crack down on U.S. big tech until it had incubated a Chinese big tech sector.
Right.
They weren't like, oh, no, we're not going to let Facebook in here ever. They were like, oh, no, we'll let Google and Facebook in here long enough to figure out how they work, allow local firms to clone their best features, and then we'll kick them out. That's what we should be doing if we want to steal a march on China. That kicking them out before we figured out how to do what they do, that's that's a bit of a whoopsie.
Bad planning. Whoopsies. Yeah. You don't think robots will be taking these jobs?
Maybe robots will do some of these jobs. Manufacturing the precision robots is also a precision manufacturing.
Oh, that's right. Somebody's got to make the robots. Oh yeah.
Right. And look, I think automation is real and good. I rely on automation, and I have benefited from it immeasurably. And I remember, compilers that could do some error checking and how transformative it was. And I had a friend tell me a couple of years ago that he was using Copilot to write CSS, which is just like a giant pain in the ass to write valid CSS that works across multiple browsers. And the LLM was doing it really well. And I was like, that's really amazing. And I said, if you had told me my latest compiler has a CSS debugger that's really good, I would say that's very exciting. But what you're telling me instead is that the job of programmer is now threatened because I have some error checking for CSS, which I don't think follows. I think that's great if you're trying to raise $1 trillion to be Sam Altman and steal everyone's eyeballs. But it's not great if it's not like realistic, nor does it make it a good investment.
He's talking about WorldCoin, which is the orb that you scan your eyeballs into, and then somehow the world works better.
These guys in
gotta respect the orb.
Yeah.
We're very pleased to
domes.
Domes, orbs.
They're obsessed with spears.
Yeah.
I love your collage with it's a sphere with Donald Trump's hair.
That's right. Yeah. So Donald Trump, one of the best things about Donald Trump being president is there's 1 million public domain photos of him now because all the things the White House produces are in the public domain. Yeah. So I can just use those without even having to credit them, which is great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I do think it would be kind of fun to have like a brush tool that just paints the texture of his hair.
Right. Trump hair. I have some Trump hair PNGs, but I've made my own from the official presidential portrait.
I think
nice.
You're right. A Photoshop brush of Trump hair would be very useful.
It would. Maybe AI can get on that.
And the GIMP could do it too. Yeah. GIMP is actually getting better and better. Do you use the newest GIMP that just came out?
Yeah, version 3, right? The first big update in 20 years.
Yeah.
It is a bit like the time we renovated the kitchen. I couldn't remember where the cutlery was for 2 months. I'm looking in the wrong spot, and it's crashier. So I have lost a ton of work. You have to really hit save every couple of seconds because it is not as stable as GIMP 2 was.
We are very fortunate. Jeff Jarvis has the week off, but Cory Doctorow has agreed to sit in. And it's so nice to have you, sci-fi author, brilliant author, thebezel.org for his new books, including the one that just came out, Picks and Shovels, the origin story for Marty Hench, forensic accountant, and the work he does at pluralistic.net. It's there it is, Picks and Shovels, a Martin Hench novel. Paris Martineau's back. It's great to have you back. We missed you so much. She's working at The Information. I didn't get a chance to credit you. I credited you. I didn't get a chance to thank you in person for that excellent Section 230 article you wrote just on your way out the door.
Thank you.
That was really well done.
And also a hell of everything's a bit in stasis now. I think even as I was reporting that, folks were like, oh, we could release this bill as soon as this week, but that would rely on nothing calamitous happening in global and national politics that week. And what would you know? A lot of calamitous things are happening in global
How did that? That's
politics.
Amazing that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, we had like an all hands let's get to work on this bill thing at EFF. And I asked my colleagues, do you really think a bill is going to move in Congress? And they were like, yeah, no, we're told by all of our friends, our legislative analysts were like, we're told by, the staffers, this is moving in Congress. And I'm like, okay, I'll pitch in, but then it didn't move in Congress.
Well, the reason it's scary and the reason you point out in your article is it's a bipartisan move. I mean, that's what's scary.
And I phrased that sentence very specifically because I knew some people were going to be like, there've been bipartisan efforts to reform Section 230 before. I'm like, yes, proposed, never introduced before.
Right.
We've never had a comprehensive bipartisan effort to not just reform Section 230, but repeal it whole hog introduced. No. And that's scary. I think the main thing is, are we going to get I assume probably sometime in the next 4 years, there'll be a period where there's less.
It's a little calmer, you think?
Fire. Yeah. I hope so, but I don't know. Maybe we won't. Maybe it's just going to keep getting worse from here, and then we won't have to deal with this. But we'll have to deal with other bad things.
Well, if you care about our chats in our various streams, we have 8 of them going at the same time: Discord, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, X.com, LinkedIn, Facebook. if you care about our TWiT forums at twit.community, if you care about our Mastodon instance at twit.social, if you care about leaving comments on our videos, all of that would go away the minute Section 230 goes away, because I'm too small. Unlike Facebook and X and Google, I'm too small to suffer a barrage of lawsuits, to have to defend a barrage of lawsuits. Paris, you estimated each one would cost me $1 million to defend. I couldn't afford one. So we would shut down. We would immediately have to shut down all of our user contribution areas,
and I think
because
part
we
of
couldn't
the
afford
issue
it.
is this plan is being made with kind of the reason why they're angling, or at least people tell me they're angling for a full repeal, is like, oh, that will
Then we
scare
negotiate.
the tech companies into negotiating. But that means the people. Let's even.
How's that going with tariffs?
First of all, let's assume that'll work, which I think is already a crazy assumption.
Yeah.
Let's assume somehow that works. The people and companies that are going to be negotiating are probably going to be just the biggest players in
Not
the
me.
room.
Not me.
Leo is not going to be negotiating.
No, not that little fixie site in the UK that is already gone.
Yeah.
And it's really scary when you see Dick Durbin, Lindsey Graham, Josh Hawley, Marsha Blackburn, Sheldon Whitehouse, Amy Klobuchar, Dick Blumenthal, and Peter Welch all in the same room. That should scare you.
Hawley and Klobuchar are there because they think it's doing antitrust work. And what they don't understand is it's creating a compliance moat that will keep small market entrants out and only allow large firms to function. And the other thing that's going on in the background, there's a New York Times crime reporter, investigative journalist called David Enrich, who had a book out this month called Murder the Truth. And it's about the group of people who overturned Roe, who have spent the last 20 years trying to overturn Sullivan, which is the Supreme Court case.
Thank God that got protected. Holy cow.
Yeah, well, now it's in danger.
Steve Wynn's lawsuit was turned back, though.
That's right, but they have a whole bunch of these queued up.
It's not the end of it.
Ones to overturn marriage equality and so on. It's literally the same people. It's the same judges they're targeting. Clarence Thomas hates Sullivan because
Sullivan protects the right of the free press to say things if they're not malicious about people like Steve Wynn. And it protects,
malicious. They're maliciously wrong, like libel someone with malicious intent to harm. And in this case, like so long as you are not wrong and libeling someone, and you did. So
you could be wrong as long as it's not malicious.
A wanton disregard for the truth or a malicious intent, then you're okay.
Right.
And so, the move to overturn Sullivan combined with the end of a safe harbor for user speech means that a much larger amount of user speech will be swept up in potential liability. And then the platform will have vicarious liability for allowing the user speech. So you could imagine a future in which the New York Times publishes something, and rather than suing the New York Times over it, they sue a platform for allowing users to talk about it and quote it.
Yeah.
Right? Because Sullivan goes away. So this is the ability of rich people to decide who can criticize them and how has been a very big project for a long time, and it's coming closer than ever. And the fact that Mark Zuckerberg is an advocate for Section 230 reform should tell you everything you know about whether Section 230 is good for big tech.
Yeah. Regulate us, please, he says.
Create a compliance moat so that our competitors can't do unto us what we did unto MySpace.
Also known as pulling up the ladder behind you. Cory, great to have you filling in for Jeff Jarvis, who's off this week. Paris Martineau, great to have you back. Cory, I know I'm going to be respectful of your time. We're going to get out of here in a half an hour. But let me do one more ad here before we go. Our show today brought to you by Melissa. I got off the phone the other day with Melissa. It's really interesting. They've been around 40 years, since 1985 now, doing address verification. But these days in business, it's more than address verification. It's really data science. It's data quality. And they have been acquiring companies with AI, with data scientists. I talked to one of their new data scientists, and I was so impressed with where Melissa has gone and what they are doing. They could have rested on their laurels, but no, they have stayed up to date. Whether it's manufacturing or supply chain management, the healthcare industry, Melissa's using AI to boost efficiency, personalize customer experiences, and spark innovation. See, poor quality data is bad, right? It can result in expensive mistakes, embarrassing mistakes, and in areas like healthcare, it can kill people or give you a wrong diagnosis. One of the things Melissa's doing in their healthcare arm is validating patients' prescriptions with the actual medicines put in the bottle with the patient's record to make sure they're getting the right medications. It's incredible. Recent study found that 4% of companies consider their data ready for AI models. Even the most advanced AI models, however, cannot correct underlying data quality issues. So it really goes hand in hand. Melissa is the data quality expert. Imagine having a data expert that never sleeps. Melissa's intelligent system will verify identity to prevent fraud in gaming operations. As I said, ensure valid patient and medicine identification in healthcare systems, securely update and verify constituent data across government databases. The Know Your Business requirements enable verification and monitoring for financial institutions, KYC. Melissa guides you through complex data management with ease. It makes advanced data quality accessible to everyone, from small businesses to enterprises, with real-time data validation, comprehensive enrichment, cross-reference verification with gold standard reference data, intelligent anomaly detection. It's no wonder Melissa is the trusted data quality expert worldwide. Your business needs Melissa, and good news, you don't have to worry about your data. Melissa securely encrypts all file transfers. They have an information security ecosystem built on the ISO 27001 framework. They adhere to GDPR policies, SOC 2 compliant, obviously. They want to protect your data as much as you do. Contact Melissa's team to learn how they can elevate your business and improve your data quality. It's like having a data scientist working for you. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free. Melissa.com/twit. We thank him so much for supporting Intelligent Machines. We thank you for supporting us by using that address, Melissa.com/twit. Melissa, thank you, Melissa. You're going to get a home robot, Cory, help you around the house?
I mean, we had an incredibly disappointing string of Roombas.
Didn't Roomba just file for bankruptcy?
I think they did. Yeah.
R.I.P. Roomba.
iRobot's been struggling. You know what happened? Although I think they might have been premature because the reason their business has faltered is Chinese clones.
Well, I think it's also because they were going to be acquired by Amazon, but the deal fell through because I assume, I believe the Lena Khan's FTC denied it.
Regulatory.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's moved to scrutinize it. Yeah.
But this is where tariffs could have helped them, right? A 200% tariff on Chinese robots.
I don't think they make Roombas in America.
I don't think they make Roombas.
Shoot.
Oh, who'd have guessed?
They need to quickly spin up that Roomba factory.
America,
yeah.
Every Roomba you see carrying a knife, that's America made.
That's right. That's right. The Roomba that they put a bomb on to kill the terrorist. That's
an American Roomba.
Yeah.
Is that a made up story or did that really happen?
Well, they put a bomb on a bomb robot and used it to kill the guy who was shooting at cops in Dallas.
I remember that. Yeah.
Paris, I have to ask, in the journalist being added to the wrong chat scandal of last week, given all that, do you ever get auto-completed for Paris Marks and get his email? Because you could type PARIS space MAR. You get pretty close.
I haven't, but I should. I've thought about this as well. I can't believe we haven't gotten confused for one another in this way more.
But getting Paris Marks's messages is not as good as getting Pete Hegseth's messages.
No, it's definitely not as good.
Paris is more coherent and less drunk.
That's true. I mean, I could kind of do a little drunken role play. If anybody wants to add me to top secret government chats, I'll do that for you.
It's so funny. The government is now blaming Apple. We talked about this yesterday on MacBreak Weekly.
Yes.
It's all Apple's fault because the iPhone makes it might be, by the way. It's not completely far-fetched. The iPhone makes suggestions about adding contact information and apparently added Jeffrey Goldberg's contact information to a different JG And then that
If
JG.
only the U.S. government had spent millions of dollars building apps for classified conversation that are specifically designed to ensure that only people with clearance can be added to the chat and proper records are kept according to sunshine laws. If only those were issued to everyone who worked in a national security role, and then if only there was a training session in which they were told that they were legally obliged to use just that and anything else would be a potential criminal act. If only those things were the case.
That would be crazy,
clearly,
though.
it seems pretty obvious to me they liked Signal because of its automatic message destruction, that they didn't want records of these conversations.
And also, they probably just didn't want to go to the secure room.
They didn't want to use the skiff in their house, by the way.
Listen, how else are you going to be sending bombs falling, prayer emoji, fist emoji while you're picking up Starbucks if you have to go to your house to say that?
Carrie,
Corey,
what do you use
emojis on those computers?
Do you use something for secure messaging? Do you feel like you need to do
Signal.
that? Use Signal.
I use Signal, but I am not in a circumstance where
you're not sharing war plans.
Someone else gets to decide whether or not it's a crime for me to add someone to my chat. And so I don't have to worry about it. But also I am someone who really hates real-time communication unless there's no way around it. So I like email. Sending me a message and interrupting me while I'm doing something else, I will never thank you for it unless it's urgent and we need to do it. If we're out like on our way to dinner and we're in two cars and you're texting me to say like, oh, I found parking, that's one thing, right? But if it's like the middle of the day and you want to invite me to dinner on Friday and you text me, it's like, well, now I gotta like, if I can't answer it right now, which I probably can't, I have to remember to look at that IM later. And so that's how I end up not going to dinner with you on Friday. And
that's why you use the Paris Martineau system of don't click get read receipts and then do not click on the message until you're ready to respond because then you'll know that they know you've seen it and you trick yourself. But then this also has the problem of sometimes you'll leave messages unread for months and your friends will be like, do you hate me?
I need to point out, Corey, that Paris is closer to your daughter's age than yours.
Hey, don't blow up my spot here, Leo.
And this is, to me, this is very interesting. There is a cultural divide about what form of communication people prefer, and there's no consensus on this. No. Some people would rather be called, mostly people my age.
Right.
I enjoy a call.
My daughter, who's 32, wants me to call her. She says, no, text me, never text me.
That's the thing, is I differ from a lot of my peers in the sense that, listen, I'll enjoy a text with certain, like I have a group chat. I treat those texts as low effort. I'll check them when I need them. Sometimes I might engage in real time, but everything else really, I don't really like real-time conversation in the middle of my day.
So you're like Corey.
I need to be in a specific headspace. Otherwise, I'm just too easily distracted. I think it's because I have ADHD.
See,
if I'm engaged in a conversation with you, then I'll forget what I was doing before. So I can't.
Email does not work for me because of the volume of crap in my email. And while I have many rules and I've done everything I can to filter the sewage, it's easy for me to miss emails. Whereas a text message is as much crap as I'm starting to get is not yet.
So, here's my email survival strategy. So anything that has the word unsubscribe in it goes into a folder called mailing list.
I have that.
I only check that periodically. Anytime I reply to you, your email address goes into an address book.
Yep.
And any email from someone in an address book goes into a folder called People I Know.
Great minds. Mine's called Important, but same thing if you're my contact list. Yep.
So how is it that when you look at the folder of email just from people in your address book that you don't see all the things?
Yeah, no, that's true. It's just there's a lot of it. There's a lot of people in my address book. There's a lot of people want to email me.
Popular.
I'm also a public figure to some degree, and that means I get a lot of email, and I respond sometimes, which means they're now in my contact list. I don't know. I just text messaging seems to me to be kind of a way of prioritizing stuff.
So the last thing I want to do, there's actually a great bit in Bruce Sterling's book, The Hacker Crackdown, which is a history of the first Secret Service raids on hackers and also the founding of EFF. It's a great book.
I got to read that. Yeah.
It's an old book. It's from 1992, but it's an amazing book. And there's a bit in it about the history of the phone system. And they talk about how there was like this doctor who wrote this letter to the editor saying like, this is insane. Any person off the street can barge into your living room without so much as any advance notice by making the phone ring. This is nuts. Who wants this? You know?
I mean, fair.
Right. And I feel that, so I feel like email is like, it's like sending me a letter, right? I get the message and it shows up in my inbox and I can reply to it or delete it or, you know, whatever. And I have some templates as well that I use for replying to certain people if they have a kind of standard query. But it only shows up when I look at it. It never shows up when I'm, you know, in the middle of doing something else. So I will periodically blip over to my email and hit F5, but I do not get notifications when I get in. I get no notifications if I can help it.
I like turning off all notifications. I think that's good. But I can't turn off message. You don't turn off messaging notifications.
Okay, I have all my notifications on, but I have do not disturb mode on. I've had do not disturb mode on for like 7 years. So my phone does not buzz or make noises. I have it set so where if somebody calls me in
you
certain
have some people can
like
burst through.
Phone calls definitely burst through or at least make my phone vibrate. But notification wise, they're there and I can just look at them as I need to, but they're not like my phone is, if I had every notification buzzing me, I would go insane. That's like hundreds of buzzes a day.
It's like hooking a random number generator up to a taser and then like strapping it to your abdomen and just like every, several times a day.
You're watching the Intelligent Machines, Cory Doctorow, Paris Martineau. So glad to have both of you back. Jeff will be back next week. I'll save some of these stories. I think Jeff actually was putting stories into the rundown.
Oh, he was. He thought he was going to be here, clearly. Do we want to take bets? Do you think he sank or floated in Salem?
I think he weighs the same as a feather.
Weighs the same as a duck.
Yeah. What is it?
A man from the New York Times, I'm sure Jeff put this in. A man employed an AI avatar in his legal appeal. A video persona. It looks he's pretty handsome, but it was a fictitious person. The First Judicial Department, Supreme Court of the state of New York was not amused.
Shocking.
Shocking. Who could have anticipated such a thing?
The court had allowed Mr. DeWalt, who's not a lawyer, was representing himself to accompany his argument with a pre-recorded video presentation. As the video, it turns out DeWalt is 74 years old. Okay, look at the guy in the video presentation.
Right.
Don't think he's 74 years old. Don't think he's 74.
I'm sure he had his normal voice too, right?
As the video began to play, it showed a man seemingly younger than Mr. DeWalt wearing a blue collared shirt and a beige sweater standing in front of what appeared to be a blue virtual background. Now, credit to the judges. A few seconds into the video, one of the judges, confused by the image on the screen, asked Mr. DeWalt, "Is that your lawyer?" "I generated that," Mr. DeWalt responded. "That is not a real person." It would be nice to know that when you made your application, she said. "I don't appreciate being misled," before yelling for somebody to turn off the video. Just a hint. Maybe don't do that.
Right. I don't want your chatbot nonsense in my court. I would like to hear salient and cogent things in my court. And, obviously pro se is a bad idea. Generally a bad idea. Yeah. Not always, but generally. And I appreciate that there are people who, trying to handle their own, appeals while they're in prison or whatever, who find themselves pro se because they.
That's a little different. Yeah.
It is what it is. But yeah, the thing about being pro se is that you can come up with ideas that anyone who knows even a little about how courts work would say, just don't do that. That won't work the way you think it will. My boss and pal at EFF, Cindy Cohen, who runs the organization, has spent her whole life talking with hackers who've got all kinds of ideas to do things in relation to the law that she just says, like, that won't pass the giggle test. Like, as soon as you try that in front of a judge, they will say, no, you are trying to subvert the spirit of the law. No, right? And like, there's a lot of this like, oh, I found one weird trick. And if you've ever encountered the sovereign citizen movement, this is their whole thing. It's like, I have figured out that
I'm
because
obsessed with the sovereign citizen movement. It's my favorite.
I love those
flag.
videos. There are lots of videos of people getting pulled over saying,
and they're like, I'm not driving, I'm traveling.
Right. And you're not a sheriff, so you can't arrest me. And even if you are with the sheriff's department, you're not the right kind of sheriff.
That flag has yellow trim, which means we're in a naval court right now, and none of this applies. I'm a boat, or I'm not.
Whatever works best.
Yeah.
It is amazing, and it continues to happen, but it just shows people are sometimes a little gullible. Shopify, one of our fine sponsors, love them a lot. Their CEO sent out a memo saying if you need to add headcount, this is from Toby Lutke, if you need to add headcount before you can hire somebody in your department, you have to prove to me, before asking for more headcount, he wrote, and resources, teams must demonstrate why they cannot get what they want done using AI. What would this area look like if autonomous AI agents were already part of the team, he says.
He also said in this letter that now Shopify employees, it's going to be baked into all performance reviews at Shopify, not only self-assessment, but peer assessments and your, like a manager assessing employees. The question, how often does this person use AI? And I assume the answer is if you're not saying that I use AI 5 out of 5 all the time, that your job could be at risk, which is incredibly wild to me as a business strategy.
I mean, any metric becomes a target. It is not hard to use AI 10 times a day if all you want to do is burn Shopify's store of OpenAI tokens or whatever. You can just ask it to like give you directions for removing a grilled cheese sandwich from a VCR in the style of the King James Bible 10 times a day. And you are now the Six Sigma AI user in the Shopify.
Shopify is known for productivity and net pronouncements in early 2023, according to the Wall Street Journal. And actually, I kind of agree with this one. Shopify's COO, they're fully remote, 8,100 fully remote employees. So I praise them for that. Shopify's COO directed employees to quit holding, quote, an absurd amount of meetings. The company then deleted 12,000 events from its workers' calendars, freeing up 95,000 hours for more focused tasks. I'm not against that. Delete the meetings.
I'm not against fewer meetings too. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I'm against
that's all middle management's doing, though.
I was about to say, like, how it sounds like to me from what you just described that management like made a couple broad decisions and suddenly was like, boop, 12 or 20,000 meetings gone. And I don't know that I trust a couple people to make the right choices for thousands of other people's meetings.
I mean, another important law here is Chesterton's fence, which is that you shouldn't remove a measure until you can explain why it's there. And so while there's doubtless meetings that shouldn't exist, there are meetings that need to exist. And if all you do is randomly remove meetings, you are not going to solve that problem.
There's a similarity to the recent layoffs at many of the federal institutions.
Indeed.
I like Chesterton's law. Do you have a compendium? Yeah. I think, Cory, you need to write a compendium of laws.
Of useful laws.
Laws.
No, just two stone tablets. Just 2 stone tablets.
Yeah, right. There's Stein's law, which is that anything that can't go on forever eventually stops. I really like that one.
That's a good one.
Good.
So I was going to say, like if I have a law about AI, it's that irrespective of whether AI can do your job, an AI salesman can probably convince your boss to fire you and replace you with an AI salesman that can't do your job.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, you've really pinpointed the problem. That the incentives, they're perverse out there for this. Whether AI is valuable or not, independently of that, there are definitely disincentives.
Speaking of your boss, Leo, are you using your B right now?
I'm wearing it right now, kids. Of course, I never go anywhere without this.
He's got a little guy that's recording his whole life and everyone around him 24/7 in flagrant violation of California wiretapping laws.
No,
because it then gives him very fun and interesting summaries of his day, I guess.
It basically, as it turns out, it does two things that are useful. It writes my daily journal, and it's pretty accurate.
You know, the idea of writing your own journal and self-reflecting on the day.
No, I don't want to
screw that.
self-reflect. I just want to
Does it
have.
read your journal for you too?
Yes, exactly. I don't need to read it or write it.
The Douglas Adams thing with the automated monk that watches all the shows that you've taped with your VCR you don't have time to watch.
Oh, I need that. Yeah. The other thing it does, it automatically makes a to-do list that I can approve or reject. But that's very useful because I've always wanted something that would remind me that I agreed to do something. I'm often agreeing to things and forgetting about it. So that's useful.
Yeah. I mean, you need a system to do that. That if that system works for you, that's fine.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I mean, life loggers have been around for a long time. I remember
Gordon
2005-06 when I was at USC, Justin Hall running around with one of these Microsoft life loggers hanging around his neck. He eventually, it's funny, he after years of being like the world's most confessional blogger with no secrets and wearing a life logger, he eventually became someone who's quite interested in his own privacy.
Interesting.
Good for him.
I feel that the ship has sailed for me, Cory. I think I think everything is known, and I might as well just live with it. Don't you think?
Well, look, privacy is not no one knows stuff about you. It's that you choose what people know about you.
And in my case, everything.
Sure. If you make that choice, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'd really like to recommend the Wikipedia page for LifeLogger, specifically the image at the top of it. Every single photo, it shows 5 photos of men wearing life loggers, and all of them are more ridiculous than you could possibly imagine.
Oh, those are good. Oh, one's Steve Mann.
There's one that looks
Steve
like
Mann.
a mime.
It was Steve Mann was the legendary MIT hacker. There he is on the left.
They might all be Steve Mann. I think there might all be Steve.
Okay.
Oh, they are all. You're right.
Oops, all Steve Mann situation.
They're all Steve Mann. He would walk around the MIT campus with that stuff on.
I really like his sunglasses mime look, kind of. It's pretty good. The one on the right.
Yeah. But we've come a long way. See how it's gotten better? And that one on the far left, by the way,
the one on the
back.
left is the one that that led me to suggest we bring this up because it's quite good.
I was talking about this one, which was a Google device. Remember, they put it out, and then they realized it would take pictures. Nobody wanted pictures taken from that angle.
Yeah, the bar on my corner when I lived in San Francisco, the Elbow Room, someone famously, I think, got punched for wearing a...
the Elbow Room, the Google Glass, yeah. This all predates Google Glass. I don't know what he's wearing in the late 1990s picture in the striped shirt. The one you're talking about, Paris.
No, what is the one in the 1980s?
I think that's
Steve
Mann. I think that maybe
I think it's all Steve Mann. I do. I agree.
I know, but what is he wearing? I like the combo helmet antenna eye thing.
Sure.
Well,
and whatever's going on top of his head.
So this is 1980. So he has to have this is his viewer. It's a little TV screen. He couldn't make them that small in the back of the day. He's got a camera. The antennas are a little aggressive. He's got a duck to go in a room. But,
no, on his head, that's the light. I think that's a light on his head.
Oh, is that a light? Well, where's the camera? Maybe that's the camera and the
periscope
screen.
is camera, yeah.
So it reminds me of this. I just put it in the chat. Hugo Gernsback, the founder of Astounding Stories and the person for whom the Hugo Award is named, invented this thing called the isolator to help him focus.
Zoom chat, Leo.
Did he wear it?
He did. He wore it.
The isolator helmet and does not exist. Wait a minute.
Hang on. What happened?
Post the right one in there.
I might have gotten the wrong one.
The isolator helmet 0 got in there somehow. So
sorry. I hit a 0 on my way to
there
we
go.
I love this. Oh, this is great.
Did he write with this thing on?
Yeah.
That's what I need when I'm forced to write copy in the office.
That reminds me a lot of that Kickstarter. I think I gave it away.
Oh yeah, the face huggers Kickstarter.
Yeah. So you could sleep in airports and things.
That's right.
I had that. I wore it even sometimes.
What is this?
It was a pellet filled. It looked exactly like this. A pellet filled hat that you would wear. It had 2 holes on the left and right for your arms. And it had a small hole around your nose so you could breathe, but the rest of you was covered in gray felt padded with pellets. And gosh, I wish I didn't give it away. You know what? Reason I gave it away, I think, is because it started leaking. And it was leaving little pellets behind
leaking
me.
Mystery pellets?
Yeah. I decided maybe
and they let you bring this into an airport?
Yeah. Well, the idea is you could sleep, because your arms came out, so you could sleep like this. Nobody would bother you, especially because you looked like the Elephant Man. Did Hugo
you can buy
Gernsback
them on Amazon? They are still for sale on Amazon. The Dream of the 90s is alive in Portland.
Wow.
And that's made in the USA, I got to point out.
Called the Ostrich Pillow.
Ostrich Pillow. Wow, that's on Amazon.
Discord's on top of it.
Not on mine, it's not.
Oh.
You're saying Discord's on top of my screen?
No, they've got pictures for you.
These are some incredible photos.
Yeah. The Go Neck Pillow.
Wow.
Oh, they got, you know what? They realized how dorky it looked.
No, but
they
they
got a
have the
little more
little
normal.
ostrich pillow too. With the thing that you stick your head in.
Yeah, they still have that. Wow.
Yeah.
It looks like
I might have to buy
looks
another
like
one.
a pair of upside down underwear.
Yes, it's kind of
It looks
like wearing. It's kind of like
diaper-esque.
wearing your tighty whities on your head. Imagine a pair of tighty whities, but filled with pellets.
Imagine sitting down for a transatlantic flight and your seatmate pulls out that.
I've seen
I
people
would-
do weird.
I would pull the exit door.
What
My
about
God,
Vision
no.
Pro? That's pretty close, right?
There's the product shot there. I just put it in the chat.
Okay, all right.
Oh my
I
God.
have
Zoom
to
chat,
do a
Leo.
little rigmarole
Zoom
to
chat.
get it from the chat into a different machine. But let me copy.
Oh, the
that.
power napping photo is great.
Oh, it's pretty good.
That looks a little suggestive.
Oh, that's the wrong one. All right,
Wow.
here we go.
This is something.
Corey, you're fun. It's great to have you. Really. Oh yeah, that's it. That's the real deal. That's I had that exact one. He's not using it fully
Feel
to its.
respected when you wore it?
Like I said, I am an animal. The one with the power napping is really more my speed, where you put your hand in the holes.
Yeah. Stick your fingers in your ears.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick your nose while you're sleeping.
You can just imagine a flight attendant's shaky hand as they decide, as they're like, should I tap to wake this man up for the meal service? No, I should leave it.
No, the game is once you take off, you sneak into a business class seat, and then you put that on your head,
and they don't know.
And that you've got a business class seat, and
They don't know it's not.
And they're like, we can't
don't
ask
know.
this man to move.
It could be Hugo Gerstmann. We don't know.
And if they ask you to move, you tell them you've created an easement.
I am a
tenants'
sovereign
rights.
citizen, and your flag is wrong. You wrote an article on pluralistic.net about AI therapy. This article from NPR says that it's all the rage. And I guess if you were nervous about talking to a real person, I mean, this goes back to Eliza, you might think that an AI therapist is of some use.
So this was not about the merits of AI therapy. This is about the risks of letting a chatbot owned by companies that habitually lie about how they handle data have the data that you can get from nowhere else.
Good point.
Right.
Much like my bee, actually, the little thing I'm wearing.
Does your bee loop through the cloud? By the way, I'm very proud of that collage. You just scroll past it.
Oh, did I miss it? Let's see. There we go.
Sigmund
I
Freud
forgot
with
that Corey's
with
still
the-
peeping
oh
on
my
your
God.
screen. That's a really good one. I love the
And the title is
concrete
Anyone Who
Liabilities.
Uses or Trusts an AI Therapist Needs Their Head Examined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just these companies have been so consistently untruthful
That's a
about
good
their
point.
data handling.
That's a good
And
point.
this data is extremely compromising. And I just think you have no basis for believing them. Like, fool me once, we don't get fooled again, as George Bush said,
Is that what he said? I
Yeah.
couldn't quite parse it. We're going to take a little break. Normally at this point, we do picks of the week. Corey, if you want to dial out, you can. You've been very patient with us. I thank you.
I'm going to ditch before my back starts spasming, but it was great to see you folks. Enjoy
Really,
the rest
really
of the show.
appreciate it. Corey, you're the
Thanks for
best.
being here.
Cory Doctorow, thebezel.org for his books. Definitely got to read the whole Marty Hench saga. They're all good.
And martinhench.com as well. You can go to martinhench.com.
Oh.
They're all just redirects to my personal site.
Awesome. And pluralistic.net for his blog. And of course, he's on Mastodon at Pluralistic. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Take care. So great to see you. We love Cory. Have you been on with him before? I don't think you have, Paris.
No, I'm obsessed with his glasses. I should have asked him more about them. I should have asked him about them. They were just lovely. Big fan.
Cory, are you still there? No, he's
frozen.
frozen solid, so I think he hung up.
You know, I think that's a good place for him to be. If not horizontal, then frozen solid.
Yeah, poor guy. He's been in a lot of pain. He's had both hips replaced now. His back hurts, but he keeps writing, he keeps creating, he keeps fighting the good fight, and it's one of the reasons I deeply respect the man, and his intelligence is second to none.
Absolutely. I mean, he was a fantastic guest.
But I still have sand in my shoes. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
I was about to say, you were on your best behavior there, Leo. You were like,
I am not going to.
You were like, I don't know that I think this is going to be super transformative or anything, but I'm just thinking we should hear him out. And I was like, excuse me, Leo.
I am not going to argue with Cory Doctorow. Excuse me. I do not want to be eviscerated. Can you imagine? He would just...
I know. We even got just a couple little things in there that you believe in, and he just correctly put you in your place.
Well, I don't know if he completely demolished my arguments. I don't think it's
You're saying the YouTube headline of this is not going to be Doctorow smashes Leo's weak liberal argument to pieces.
Maybe that's the title of the show. Okay, maybe
that'll get the clicks.
Jeff will be back next week. Paris Martineau is back. We will get your picks of the week in a moment. You're watching Intelligent Machines, episode 814. A reminder, incidentally, that there are a couple of things coming up. Sunday is the 20th anniversary of this network. We did our first TWiT show on April 13th, April 14th, I think it was, 2005. On April 13th, this Sunday, we're going to celebrate. Patrick Norton, who was on that first show, will be joining us along with Alan Malventano and Sam Abul-Samad. But the really important part of the celebration is you, because we kind of brought the old hosts back for episode 1000. But I really wanted to acknowledge the fact that TWiT would not exist without you guys, without our fabulous audience. So I encouraged everybody, and it's not too late, to send in a video, talk about how you first found TWiT, your earliest memories of TWiT, anything you want to share. We've had people in all walks of life from all over the world respond, and we're going to have some fun videos. I have a poem I shall read. There's been a lot of great response. If you want
poem
to,
written by you,
no,
by AI, or by
not by AI
listener?
nor me, by an actual human listener.
And that's art, baby. Sorry.
That's art, baby. What's the best way, Benito, at this point? Should I have them? We asked that you post it on social media with a hashtag TWiT, but I think it's at this point for us to harvest all that by Sunday is probably a little late. Why don't you email it to leo@leoville.com or info@twit.tv. If you've got something recorded on your phone, it's fine. Keep it short. We're going to have a lot of fun with our fans, with our friends. Our cohort. It's really been great working with you. The other thing I wanted to announce, Lisa has told me that we are bringing back the 1-year subscription to Club TWiT. And this is really good news. Now, Club TWiT is the way you see a lot of shows, a lot of projects do this. We are ad supported, but the ads don't cover our entire costs, not nearly. We need some help. And we started doing this a couple of years ago, and it's been great. Normally, we charge $7 a month. You get ad-free versions of the shows because you're paying for it. I hate it when you pay for something and still get ads. So no ads, not even this plug. You'll get access to the Club TWiT Discord, which is a wonderful place to hang out and be, and some really smart people, interesting people. Many of our hosts hang out in there, and of course, a lot of the great creativity happens not just during the shows. A lot of it's during the shows, but the club has sections for every possible geek interest. So it's really fun to hang out in there. You can also watch special events. In fact, Joe Esposito is always creating fun little posters for us. Here I am as Indiana Jones, Michael Jackson, and I don't know, Simone Biles. I don't know who is in the middle there. But join the club, twit.tv/clubtwit. You'll also get special events. We've decided to do all of the streaming conferences and keynotes that we've done all this time. Apple's starting to get very sticky about it. We've had takedowns on YouTube and now on Twitch. So we decided to start moving those into the club, do them on Discord only. So You won't see those in public. You will see those on Discord. We figured that's, protecting Apple's intellectual property, but still letting us do the journalistic job we need to do. The first one will be June 9th, I think. Micah and I will cover Apple's keynote at WWDC, but we will also, because of this new format, be able to stick around and do the State of the Union address as well. So all day, June 9th, for Micah and Leo talking about what Apple has announced. There are keynotes coming up, Microsoft Build, other events. We will see those in the Discord. We also do, our Coffee Geek is coming up. Mark Prince, he's bringing Liz Happy Beans with him, and we'll do another coffee episode. We've got Stacy's Book Club, Micah's Crafting Corner, Photography Time with Chris Margaret. All of those are club only events. We try to make it worth your while, and it's only $7 a month. And as I said, when you go there now, twit.tv/clubtwit, you'll also see the opportunity to sign up for a full year. Still $7 a month, but it's $84 in one throw. And we appreciate your support. It makes a big difference to us by month or by year, whichever you prefer. And if you're already, I should mention this for those of you watching live, if you're already a member, you can just go to the subscription page and turn on the yearly for the next renewal period, and that'll renew at a year rate. Okay. So if you're already in the club and you want to go to year, a lot of people have said, well, I want the yearly subscription. You can do that by going to the subscription page. All right. Actually, that part we should not edit out because I want everybody to know about that.
Yeah, the club is going to hear that.
Yeah, the club needs to hear it. Anybody in the club, I guess if from the club, you'll hear it, right? Yeah. So cut that part out and stick it in. All right, time for our picks of the week. And usually I let Jeff start, but I have one this week, Paris.
Ooh, a Leo pick.
I'm gonna throw in a couple, and actually we even have, I believe, a pick from Jeff, because he really did think
we
he was
do because Jeff
be here, so I'll do his.
Jeff fills in his picks.
So you remember the last time Jeff wasn't here, I told you about a new puzzle called Bracket City, right?
Yes, and I love Bracket City. I've been playing it regularly. It's so much fun.
It's kind of like a crossword puzzle that you fill in. I figured this is going to get purchased. The New York Times is going to add it to their puzzle page. Well, the Atlantic
you were going to be right, but
the Atlantic got there first, which actually I'm thrilled about. The Atlantic has some very good crosswords, and now if you go to bracket.city, you will be taken to. Oh, you see, I'm the chief of police today. I didn't do as well as I sometimes do. But this is, so let's play, let's see. I think I did yesterday's already. Puppet Master yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, you became Death, Destroyer of Worlds. That's great.
That's perfect. So let's just show you what it looks like. We won't do the whole thing, but you see the highlighted ones are actually, you just solve them. So blank your nose. That's easy. You just pick it and then, Oh,
it's blow.
It's blow. Oh, see? So I got that one wrong. That's going to cost me points.
Are you playing on hard mode?
Oh, of course. Famous last. Great. The masculine form of Felicity, or a famous cat, Felix the cat. You get the idea. So the yellow ones get filled in, and then eventually it gives you this date in history, which is really fun. Rocks when added to soda will not... Huh? Rocks when added to soda will not cause your... Pop rocks?
Oh, pop rocks. Oh.
Yeah. And then domain for retail cop. It's the mall, right?
Mm-hmm. A mall cop.
Low rise kind of mall.
Strip.
You know, I'm just going to do this with you guys from now on. Striped canes. Candy canes. You guys are good. Night, you are finally free to demand candy from strangers. And Halloween blood type. Huh?
A? Is it like
I think it's O, right?
Oh, okay. I don't know. There's a couple. There's not that. Yeah. Well, let's look at what's around it. This is
so to blank fish, which is catfish, to lure someone in using a something internet persona.
Oh, fake Halloween.
Fake blood. Fake blood. Now we know it's catfish, and there you go. We did the whole thing. Felix V abdicates, ending the reign of the final anti-pope, with a link to the Wikipedia. Anyway, I love Bracket City, now part of the Atlantic. It is free still.
Do we know what the purchase cost was?
No, but it was a lot.
We also
right?
don't know entirely that it was purchased. I noticed, I think, in the
You think
announcement.
he donated it?
No, I don't think they donated it. It could be like a licensing deal. Like it said, if you look at the Atlantic's announcement article for it, it didn't say we've acquired Bracket City. It says Bracket City is now available to play on here, and the guy who created it will now be reporting to Atlantic Games editor blankety blank. So I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to work together. I don't know.
thought it was interesting. I was like, did they offer this guy a job? Because I feel like if
he's a bar. He owns a bar. He does trivia contests.
I know. I just thought it was interesting.
I'm going to say he got a multi-million-dollar payday because you know where the money for the Atlantic comes from. Steve Jobs' widow, Lorene Powell Jobs, and the Emerson Collective.
She's been turning that tap off, or at least closing it a little bit. They've been trying to get it to generate profit at a,
Well, this is how you do it. That's how the Times did it, right?
Yeah. It could also be
Everybody
a licensing deal,
games.
like a limited licensing.
I mean, I think
deal.
it could be a licensing deal. I think
Like
there could be a
5 years,
lot of
10
things
years,
that
or
are
whatever.
not exclusively it was bought, because typically that's announced as we've acquired this.
Right. Well, in
But
that case,
could
I
just
hope
be
he
me
gets
reading more into it.
5% of everything I pay for Bracket City, which is nothing. But you got to figure they think this will be good for subscriptions, right?
Yeah.
the New York Times model.
It's been a huge boon for the Times in the sense that people subscribe to the Times for games.
There's two things, even if I didn't want to support what Jeff Jarvis calls the broken times, and I did cancel my subscription to the Washington Post, but even if I didn't want to support the news portion, I love the recipes. I love the crosswords. I love the connections. I think I have to continue.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's a lot of
works.
parts of it. I love cooking. I love games. I love the news.
I read
I'm a
it.
perfect
I have
New
to.
York Times subscriber.
It's part of my job, right? I got to read the news.
You gotta read the news.
Jeff's pick from the Pew Research Center, Artificial Intelligence in Daily Life. Pew does these great surveys of
They really
people.
do.
And they talked to a lot of people, I guess. I find the numbers.
I love this stat, which is that the percentage of AI experts that think people in the U.S. interact with artificial intelligence almost constantly is 79% of AI experts think that. Meanwhile, only 27% of U.S. adults actually do interact with AI almost constantly, or 7.
Everybody uses our product.
All the time. Everybody's using it. That's why I'm in this field.
AI experts think we're using their stuff more often. A third of U.S. adults.
Say that, though. They got to say that many people are using it, right?
AI experts, when asked what percentage of people who say they blank ever use an artificial intelligence chatbot. I don't understand.
So
have or have not.
They asked AI experts what percentage of people have used an AI chatbot and what percentage haven't. And AI
the
experts
say 98%
have. And meanwhile, actually 33% of US adults have.
Oh, they really misestimated
That's really funny.
Among chatbot users, U.S. adults are far less likely than AI experts to say chatbots are extremely or very helpful. AI experts said 61% would say that. Only 33% say, and 21% say not at all or not too helpful.
Fascinating. So this is the gap. This is the gap between the hype and the reality. Right?
Yeah.
And the AI experts surveyed are those who were authors or presenters at an AI-related conference in 2023 or 2024 and live in the U.S., which is kind of an interesting sample to take it from, is all of these people heavily involved.
These are the true believers.
Say, yeah, it's everything. This is your sand guy, Leo.
All right, maybe you and Cory have worn me down just a little bit.
Hey, we're getting, I can't believe Jeff's not here for this.
I admit, and Cory's absolutely right. I mean, he's always been right when he says, these big companies are not there to change the world. They're there to make as much money as possible. And that's not a surprise, is it?
No, OpenAI is just changing from a nonprofit to a for-profit structure because it just really cares about making money for good. It's the right thing to do.
Paris, your picks of the week.
I got 2 picks. One is a quick shout out. I finished Twin Peaks on Sunday, not knowing that this week was the 35th anniversary of Twin Peaks, which I just feel like is kind of fortuitous.
The show before before you were born.
Yes.
And is now you've caught up. Congratulations.
Now I've caught up. I'm reeling.
Did it end well?
That's hard to describe. I mean, I found the ending very, well, I was going to say satisfying, but it's not the right word. At first, I was unsatisfied and confused in the way that I often am whenever I finish a David Lynch film. We're now, 3 days out from it? I think the ending was a masterpiece, and really much like the ending of the original run of the show's first 2 seasons, really subverted my expectations for where this show was going and how it was going to handle it in a very interesting, novel, and challenging, and ultimately entertaining way. So I don't know. I'd really recommend it if anybody out there hasn't watched Twin Peaks. Start from the beginning. It's a delight. The new season is crazy. I don't know how. I mean, the thing that was so mind-blowing to me about watching the 90s Twin Peaks, I was like, how the heck was this on television in the 90s? It had to blow everyone's minds, and it, of course, did.
It did.
And I thought, well, there's no way you can do that again in, 2017.
Wait a minute. There's a new Twin Peaks?
Yeah, so after 25 years in 2017,
you didn't know
that?
they
I
came
remember
back
that.
and
Yeah.
they did they did 18 parts of it, and it was just as experimental and groundbreaking as the 90s one. I'd say
Lynch.
honestly
Still
more
David
so.
Lynch,
Yeah, still David Lynch, but would recommend it. The other thing I have to recommend is just one of the reasons I went to Amsterdam was there was this artist I stumbled upon when I was there for the first time, 8 or 9 years ago, whose work I love. He's just this artist named Eddy Varekamp. Doesn't sell any of his stuff online, so I just wanted to shout it out. If anybody who's listening ever goes to Amsterdam and likes art, go visit.
Oh, these
him,
are wood
check
blocks,
it out.
yeah? Are they wood blocks?
He does woodblock prints. He does paintings. He does drawings. A lot of the biggest volume of work, of course, he makes are wood blocks because it's easy to make multiple of them.
Did you pick up an Eddy Varekamp? Did you pick one up?
I picked up 2 actual paintings of his, and he
Nice.
happened to be in the back. So as I was checking out, he came up and explained to me one of the paintings was a painting of a cafe, and he was like, "Oh, here's where the cafe is. You should go visit it. Here's what led me to paint this." And so it was delightful.
Forget Bitcoin, buy art.
Buy art, guys. It's fun. It's fun to meet an artist and buy some paintings to have in your home.
So you saw this on his Instagram and you said, I'm a going there.
Well, so I had followed him on Instagram because 9 or so years ago, I was in Amsterdam, randomly stumbled upon his studio and fell in love with his work and bought 2 pieces of his.
So you've been there before.
The one that's actually above my mantle, you can't really see it right now, is his. But I'd wanted more of it, but he's just a man who lives in Amsterdam and makes art, doesn't sell any of it online. So I was like, if I want more, I should go.
Gotta go.
So I realized I was
go to
going to
Amsterdam.
Paris, the skee ball team. I was like, I got to make a trip.
I think you've got excellent taste. These are great. I love them.
Yeah,
I love woodblock.
He's got really interesting, and the thing is, his art that he does that isn't woodblock still kind of, it looks woodblock-esque.
Oh, so some of these are watercolors.
One that
I see.
you
Yes,
just,
stencil print.
passed by up there was the one that I have above my mantle, which is kind of cool.
What? Which one?
People number 5.
You have that over your mantle?
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
It's a good one. Would recommend.
Do you, now, there are multiple copies, right? You don't have the one.
Yeah, and I think there's there's a number in the corner. I think there's 30 or something.
Oh, okay.
Like that,
So they're still pretty restricted.
Yeah. He does
Is he older guy? Older fella?
Yeah, he's definitely older. I don't know what his age is. I mean, probably 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure that I was able to go and visit him to see his work, just because I really love it and I love supporting an artist like that.
As always,
Especially
you
if
have excellent
And I also just
taste.
Amsterdam was super fun. So
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful city.
I love the museums there. The Stedelijk is great too.
Yeah. Did you go to the Rijksmuseum? Of course you did. And saw
not
the
this time, but
Rembrandts.
I've been there before. I went to go see the Van Gogh Museum again as well.
Love
as
the Van Gogh
Stedelijk, just
Museum.
because those are 2 of my favorite museums.
Yeah. It's really wild to see Van Gogh's brush strokes up close. You could almost feel like they're still wet. They're so strong. You can get right up and look at them. You don't see that in a two-dimensional picture. It's amazing.
It's really incredible. And also the thing I took away from the museum this time, which I don't know how, I'm sure I took this away last time I was there, but it left my mind, is just they go really in depth into his mental health struggles.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, at one point he was perhaps in the worst mental health of someone that could be described. Like after he's cut off his ear, having a hard time interacting with anyone, he's goes into a psychiatric ward. His treatment is twice a week he's allowed to have a bath.
Unbelievable.
And that's
crazy. That's the entire treatment.
That's the entire treatment. And so it describes this as
it could have been worse,
couple of years,
to be honest.
Could have been worse. During this
not
time,
treatment,
he painted most of, I guess, many of his iconic images, because literally the only thing he could do to keep himself remotely sane is paint. There was nothing else to do.
When we were in the south of France, we went to visit the sanatorium that he was there, and it was quite a kind of moving experience. Yeah.
I don't know. Go see some art, people. That's my pick of the week.
There's no way you're going to have a machine create art like that. It might look like that, but it's not going to have that resonance.
But it's like, I don't think a machine is ever going to create the next Van Gogh, Not that it has to be even a remotely similar style, but art that affects people in the same way, that has people talking about it here on a podcast how many years after this person's gone. Like a machine is not going to have that sort of lasting permanence.
I mean, I don't know if that's non-zero, but definitely not for the next 100 years. But I don't know if that's a non-zero chance. I wouldn't say that's a non-zero chance.
One doesn't know.
Yeah, no, sure, there could be something that's phenomenal.
I think in the next 10 to 20 years, we will be reading novels, going to movies, listening to music, all of which were created by machines. And happily doing so. I'm just
curious to see as to whether that ends up having the same sort of long-lasting cultural impact.
I think there will be connoisseurs who will say, it's got to be human or I'm not going to do it.
But I think part of the reason why something like Van Gogh or David Lynch or, like any of these pieces of work we've talked about today are still something we return to long after they were created and long after their creators had died, is because there is something about the human authorial nature of like an actual creation of art that leads us all to constantly wonder, what was this person thinking, and reanalyze their life, reanalyze their work, and come back again and again to the text. And I just don't see, maybe I'm being foolish and I'll be proven wrong in a couple of years, but I don't see that draw happening for AI art. Like, how are we going to be teaching, this is rudimentary, but how are you going to teach a college course about an AI painting? Like, it just doesn't seem as reasonable or imperative to be analyzing the author's intent if there is no author.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I wouldn't argue against you, but I also have always been suspicious of human beliefs that we are somehow special or magical.
No, and I'm not even saying I think it's like that we're uniquely. I just think that if you look at the way part of, like, even with that example, college courses or academic pursuits, like at the intro to intermediate level, the part of what people end up circling upon again and again is like, oh, what was this person's intent? How does that relate or compare to how it's perceived? How does that framework differ from the frameworks of someone else? Like, the ways that we think about these sort of things and the sort of things that end up becoming like very culturally salient often have to do with authorship in some way.
That's how it's been up to now.
Yeah. I mean,
things change.
I guess a pretty big fundamental shift from the last 1,000 years,
Yeah. I mean, you could, I didn't say this to Cory, but, he's talking about the lawyer writing the letter or the law professor writing the letter versus the AI writing the letter. And they're more valuable because it's so much work to write a letter if the law professor does it. It was a lot more work to make a Bible when a monk had to sit for months in a scriptorium to draw it. Yes, and I'm sure people, without Jeff here, I've got to bring up Gutenberg, thought that those first printed Bibles were not somehow as magical, and they aren't. as illuminated volumes.
But he's talking about information density, not labor.
But he was saying that the information density came from the fact that a human put the labor into it, right?
No. That every word, each word is chosen specifically for a reason, and for like that thing that he calls. I forget his words, but he had a word for it.
But is the message of a printed Bible less? Is information
but I think that's
dense?
the difference.
I guess it is.
Printed Bible somewhat different than a recommendation letter where you're trying to make a decision based on, is this going to be a good candidate for this job? And this letter is supposed to provide me information.
It's less valuable in that way. I agree. Yeah. Hey, it's been great having you back. Welcome back. Great to have all of you watching. We do Intelligent Machines every Wednesday at right after Windows Weekly, which is 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. 2100 UTC. You can watch us live. There are 8 different streams. Club members watch in the Discord, but you can also watch, anybody can, including club members, on YouTube, Twitch, X.com, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and there's one more. Facebook, LinkedIn, X.com, TikTok. I'm missing one, but anyway, you get, that's 8. I just couldn't count my fingers right.
We can count. Yeah, we're qualified to be talking about artificial intelligence.
If you don't want to watch live on-demand versions of the show, audio or video, we've got both available at twit.tv/IM. You can also, of course, find a YouTube channel dedicated to it. There's a link on the IM page. Or maybe the best thing to do is subscribe in your favorite podcast player. That way you'll get it automatically. You don't have to think about it. And if you are on iTunes or Pocket Casts, or if the site that you get your podcast player from has reviews, or the app does, please leave us a 5-star review. Let the world know that This Week in Google is now IM, and it's damn fine. Damn fine. Those 5 stars help us a lot. We appreciate it. Again, new yearly plans for Club Twit. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. If you're already a member, you could switch from the monthly to the yearly. If you're not a member, you take your pick. We want to have you in the club. It makes a big difference. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you, Paris Martineau. Find her work at The Information. She had to put on the headphones. We did it long enough that the earbuds died.
My AirPods are constantly on their last leg, despite the fact that these are a relatively new pair of AirPods. Apple just continues to taunt me.
And of course, you can't replace the batteries, so...
No.
Just have to get a new pair.
No. And, you'd think you get a new pair. That will solve your problem that one of the AirPods constantly doesn't charge. But no, it won't.
But no, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
I'm sorry.
Can AI fix that? No. Can these Bose headphones that I've had for 7 years,
and
will they ever die? No. Because, that's the world we get to live in.
That's the world we live in. It may not be perfect, but it's ours. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again next Wednesday for Intelligent Machines. Ta-ta.